Learning to draw hands is an important part to providing more context to your objects and sketches. So today I'm going to go over the kind of anatomy of a hand and introduce you guys to a sort of simpler way of sketching hands. Hands are very difficult to draw very realistically, so I'm going to go over some of the sort of quick tips I have for helping you draw simpler hands. So I'll start with I actually like drawing with a marker sometimes. The broad kind of chisel makes it so it's a little bit easier to, a little bit more forgiving because it's a bit of a wider stroke. And I recommend you start with that as well. So first we're going to just take a look at kind of, the anatomy of a hand. And what we're going to do is try to get like a nice relaxed kind of hand gesture. I'll do one kind of sketch, of a relaxed hand this way, and then we're also going to talk about how to sketch a closed fist as well. So the kind of shape, what we want to do is try to define some easy kind of tricks to defining some of the shapes here. So to kind of get started is a nice shape to work with is this sort of trapezoid in that kind of relationship, a little bit taller, have a slant go from the left to the right. And I mean, this kind of, it changes as you orient your perspective in this and that. But what this is doing is really defining the back palm of your hand. To kind of understand where the fingers will come in, we need to divide this evenly into 4 sort of segments. So that's an easy kind of division. And what we need to do is now really start there to define the sort of outer limits of the hand and of the fingers, and the fingers kind of follow this curve almost. There's this slant up for the first 3, and then it comes down into the index finger. So really this is almost like maybe not quite double in height. That's kind of where the ends of the fingers will sort of land. So I like to kind of start from the pinky actually, and draw out a little rectangle there. And what I want you to do is also notice that I'm not just drawing them straight as where they're like nice and tight. My fingers are like, they're very kind of knuckly and bony, so not the greatest kind of example for it, but even when they're nice and tight, you don't even get the straight lines anyway. And in a relaxed hand, we actually tend to kind of have our fingers kind of splayed out a little bit more. So with the pinky, kind of start a little kind of deviating to the left is nice, and then sort of centralizing the to the ring finger and the middle finger is nice, and then getting in that index. Kind of thin, nice little guys. So yeah, those are the kind of quick shapes you can use to kind of understand the anatomy of the hand. In this palm trapezoid shape, it's around, I would say about like halfway that we need to kind of start considering, that kind of the extension of the thumb. And so, and it would even kind of go down a little bit as you might have, that sort of flap of skin there. So anyway, we have sort of halfway down the trapezoid shape there. We're looking to, and really, for drawing hands, you don't really need to be so, I would say, like precise. I think that's why I like drawing with the Copic marker as well, because we really just want to get the simple shape of it and understand the kind of anatomy of a hand, and where to kind of focus our time on. So we have the basic shape of it, easily kind of constructed from just one certain kind of shape. And a couple of things to kind of point out here is that we've got the fingers that we put in here are actually following kind of they're not following the same kind of straight convergence, they're actually kind of splaying away a little bit. So it's good to make sure that when you have an open hand that you're doing that. It makes it look a little more relaxed, and that you actually have this kind of curve with the leading kind of pinky, or sorry, with the leading middle finger, as well as kind of affixing this thumb on the side of the kind of trapezoid here. So that's sort of it to get the rough shape. To kind of make sure we're getting all of the kind of a little simple detail here is as adding in the nail to the different fingers. So I actually like having a bit of a square kind of finger. It feels a little bit more natural, actually, making it super round. It feels like we should lean more towards illustrative than realistic here. So adding a nail kind of at the full sort of end of the finger is actually nice. And then what you want to do is also have indications for the different knuckles and how they would actually where they would bend. So double lines for larger ones, maybe single lines for single ones, and then also kind of noting the different knuckles that would be found here. So just looking at kind of outlines, it's looking pretty good. What we can do is kind of come in now with a pen just to kind of strengthen some of the line work here. So I'm going to use my Papermate Flair. There you go. And really, we're not here to draw, beautiful hands. We're here to draw the kind of almost what it's holding. So I almost like to kind of draw these in even a bit of a rougher sort of type of drawing. The thumb here is looking a little fat, but that's okay. We can kind of tighten it up, on another kind of sketch. But the idea here is that we're just trying to get in the sort of impression of a hand, and understand some of the key kind of points to drawing a simple one. So yeah, we can kind of even continue, and add some sort of shading to it just to kind of give it some more depth. These are all kind of cylinders, but I'm just trying to get some of the shadow side onto it. You can use, hatching. You can use more marker, to kind of bring in, more looks like the sort of construction lines below could actually become more of the sort of shading of the type of sketch you're doing. So that's kind of neat. There you go. Okay, so that's a good little hand from the top. It's relaxed. So this is sort of just like a top view of a hand, and we want to kind of notice the sort of curvature of the finger. Between here and there, and also the sort of how the fingers sort of splay out, and sort of highlight the different sort of hard points that I've established to get the right proportions for a hand. So, you know, understanding the anatomy of hand, open hand is actually a good starting point. But also do like a closed one. I feel like, you know, there's a lot of kind of gripping that we would show on a handle of something, or gripping like a part of your object. But this is good for if you want to kind of do like, I don't know, I guess pressing, pointing at something. It's important to kind of get these rough shapes. And we can use the same kind of shape and idea for doing a closed hand. So here what we want to do is also, we can kind of divide it into four. And as we kind of observe what's kind of happening here is you know, this part of the pinky side of your hand actually has more kind of ability to curl. It's got more kind of flesh here and less bone in relationship to these larger bones here, where the fingers are just kind of curling and going kind of straight. These guys are curling in and actually going into the hand a little bit more aggressively. So the kind of result of that is almost the inverse of these arrows. We have our leading fingers, index and middle finger, to be, you know, a little bit curling in on this side, and then we actually have our ring finger and our pinky kind of curling in even more aggressively, you know, from into that direction, into the middle of the hand. So yeah, here we're, instead of it kind of, you know, splaying out like that, we're actually kind of bringing them in the inverse direction. And here what we'll do is also have, you know, put in our thumb. And you know, it's good to look at your own hand for this kind of work, but it's also important to I think it's also good to take photos and work from reference, because kind of choosing the right perspective from our own, like, you know, holding a hand in front of us, we're already establishing a perspective. It's much better to kind of take a photo and then view that and try to find the shapes within it. It'll be easier to draw for sure, so that we're actually getting the proper kind of perspective on an object. But here are just kind of the main sort of shapes that you need to have in a closed fist. You know, we started from the same trapezoid. We just curled we divided it the same way. We curled the fingers, and it is, you know, a three-dimensional object after all. So I'm actually showing, you know, it's not so you know, it's not so regular. Having a little bit of irregularity is actually nice here. It's actually a good sort of option. So having that is actually, well, I think would improve your sorry, I think I've kind of screwed up this thumb. I think this thumb needs to actually do something more like this. I think I've had too many lines here. So I'll try to, this is fine with actually Copic marker, a good example of how you can kind of change how something looks and feels with doing underlays like this. So I'll have to kind of make sure I'm not doing the big thumb here, I'm doing the smaller one there. Another kind of thing for closed fists is you can even notice here that there's, you know, there are these lines, these bones here, that always kind of tense up a little bit more when you're clenching your fist. So that's also something good kind of visual indicator of what you need to do to explain sort of how this hand's working. So now I'll just kind of add in some line weight. Try to map out where this thumb goes. Okay, so again, we can kind of add in a, kind of a full sort of fingernail there, and add in some lines underneath here. So this is looking pretty good. Maybe this kind of part of the thumb might be a little bit fat, a little bit thick, but that's okay. Hands are hard. So here are just some simple kind of shapes to understand sort of the ways to succeed a bit better with these guys. I think what I'll do here is, I'm going to show the sort of darkness, the shadow found here with marker, and then maybe also darken up some, one of these sides. That's pretty cool. They might also be casting some of their own shadows onto each other. So yeah. It's looking pretty good. So those are some kind of top view of, like a open fist here, or an open hand, and closed fist. You can see the kind of more aggressive kind of, nature here of some of the line work here is a little bit more relaxed. You can also use that to your benefit, but just some simple shapes and kind of drawing within them and around them and kind of dividing them is a great way of getting the right sort of proportions for your sketches. And that, like, if we wanted to even show how to kind of bring this back to sort of full circle, this, if we had a clenched fist and we had our finger kind of extended, it would also still kind of follow the same kind of rules that we talked about, where it'll kind of look and follow that kind of axis, just open in the other direction, and same with this pinky, right? Pinky would go in this direction, and it would be much shorter. So, we're starting with this kind of simple shape here is an important way of kind of one of those kind of toolbox, things you can add to your toolbox to make these easier to draw. But ultimately, we're here not to draw the hands, but the things that it's holding. So this is kind of an overview of the anatomy and what you can kind of use to make a hand look a little more realistic. So yeah,